Daniel never expected betrayal to arrive so quietly. There was no argument, no raised voice, no warning. It came in the form of a short email sent just after midnight, when the world felt still and honest. The subject line was harmless. The content was not. As Daniel read it, his chest tightened. The project he had worked on for years had been approved. But his name was missing. In its place was Marcus's. Marcus, his closest friend at work. The one person Daniel trusted without question. Daniel sat on the edge of his bed, phone shaking in his hand. Outside, the city lights flickered like nothing had changed. Inside, everything had. The deal mentioned in the email was Daniel's idea. Every detail, every solution, every late night had come from his mind. He remembered sketching plans on scrap paper, refining them during long weekends, defending them in quiet conversations with Marcus when doubt crept in. Marcus had listened. Marcus had nodded. Marcus had said, "This is solid. We'll do it together." Now Marcus stood alone at the finish line. Daniel replayed every moment leading up to this. The shared lunches, the long walks after work. Nights they stayed late, laughing about small things to survive big pressure. He had told Marcus things he had never said out loud before, about his fears, about his need to prove himself, about how this project was his chance to finally be seen. Marcus knew all of it. That knowledge cut deeper than the theft itself. Daniel stood and paced the room. The floor felt cold under his feet. His apartment, once a place of rest, now felt too small, too quiet. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Instead, memories rushed in. It's the day Marcus first joined the team, nervous, but eager. The day Daniel helped him fix a mistake before it reached management. The day Marcus said, "I owe you." Daniel laughed bitterly at the thought. Debts, it seemed, were easy to forget. By morning, the truth was unavoidable. Marcus had taken Daniel's work and presented it as his own. He had spoken to management behind Daniel's back. He had framed the story carefully, leaving Daniel as a helper, not a creator. The praise Marcus received echoed through the office later that day. People congratulated him. They shook his hand. They called him brilliant. Daniel watched from his desk, face calm, heartburning. Marcus avoided his eyes at first. Then he smiled, the same familiar smile, and said, "We did it." The words felt wrong, heavy. Daniel nodded because that was easier than speaking. He wondered if Marcus believed his own lie, or if he simply didn't care anymore. As the day dragged on, Daniel realized something worse than anger was growing inside him. Doubt. He questioned his own judgment. Had he been foolish, too trusting, too willing to share? The betrayal made him feel small, as if his kindness had been a weakness instead of a strength. At lunch, Daniel ate alone. He barely tasted the food. Around him, the office buzzed with excitement about the project's future. No one mentioned Daniel's role. No one asked how he felt. He had become invisible in a story he had written himself. That night, Daniel stayed late. The office lights hummed softly. He opened old files, notes, and emails. His fingerprints were everywhere. Dates, drafts, proof. The truth sat quietly on his screen, waiting. With every document he opened, his shock turned into something sharper, more focused. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a choice. Marcus had chosen himself. Daniel leaned back in his chair and stared at the ceiling. He felt hurt, yes, but also something new. Steady pull. Toward balance. Toward fairness. Toward making things right, no matter the cost. He imagined exposing Marcus. Imagined the surprise, the panic, the fall from grace. The image brought a strange sense of calm. For the first time since reading the email, Daniel slept. In the days that followed, the betrayal settled into his routine. He woke up with it. He carried it to work. He took it home. Marcus acted normal, maybe even kinder than before. He asked Daniel's opinion in meetings. He offered coffee. He joked. Each gesture felt false, like a performance meant to ease guilt. Daniel played along. He smiled when expected. He spoke when needed. Inside, he observed. He listened. He learned. Marcus spoke openly about pressure, about fear of being left behind, about how success was the only safety net in a harsh system. Daniel heard the justification forming, piece by piece. It didn't excuse anything. One evening, Daniel stood in front of his bathroom mirror, staring at his own reflection. He looked tired, older, changed. The man looking back at him was no longer just hurt. He was awake. Betrayal had stripped away comfort and replaced it with clarity. Daniel realized this moment would shape him. He could let it break him, or he could respond. Not with noise, but with intent. The desire for revenge didn't feel wild or cruel, felt quiet, earned, logical. Still, a small voice inside him whispered a warning. Revenge had a price. Didn't yet know what it was, but he could feel it waiting. As Daniel turned off the light and lay in bed, the city still glowing beyond his window, he made a silent promise to himself. He would not forget what had been done. He would not ignore it, and he would not act without thinking. The betrayal had opened a door. What waited on the other side would change everything. Daniel did not rush revenge. The days after the betrayal moved fast on the outside and slow inside his head. Every morning, he entered the office with a calm face and a sharp mind. He watched everything. He listened more than he spoke. He noticed how Marcus walked taller now, how people leaned in when he talked, how success wrapped around him like armor. At night, Daniel's thoughts ran. He replayed moments, not out of pain anymore, but strategy. He remembered emails Marcus had forwarded, without checking, files shared casually, conversations held near open doors. Marcus had been careful, but not careful enough. Daniel understood now that confidence often made people careless. Still, revenge did not feel as clean as he expected. It came with weight. Each plan carried a shadow. He imagined the moment of exposure again and again, the room going silent, faces turning. Marcus trying to explain. The image brought relief, but it also brought something else, a tightness in Daniel's chest that refused to fade. During work hours, Marcus often leaned over Daniel's desk. He spoke about pressure from management, about how expectations had doubled overnight. He said success felt heavy, said he barely slept. Daniel listened, unsure whether Marcus wanted comfort or forgiveness. Maybe both. One afternoon, Marcus admitted something without meaning to. He said he had always felt invisible before this project. Said he believed if he didn't take the chance, someone else would. He said the system rewarded speed, not fairness. As he spoke, his voice shook just slightly. Daniel felt anger rise, then settle into something colder. Understanding did not erase the damage. Knowing why someone hurt you did not undo the hurt. It only made the choice more complex. At home, Daniel organized his evidence. He did it neatly, like someone arranging memories they no longer wanted to carry. Each file had a date. Each email told a story. He wasn't building a weapon. He was building a mirror, one that would force the truth to look back at Marcus. But the more prepared Daniel became, the less certain he felt. He began to notice how revenge crept into his thoughts at odd moments, while eating, while walking, while trying to sleep. Sharpened his focus, but it also narrowed his world. Everything became about the moment that had not yet happened. He asked himself hard questions. Would exposing Marcus truly restore balance? Or would it simply move the pain from one place to another? Would Daniel feel whole again, or only empty in a new way? The answers refused to come easily. The office grew tense as the project moved closer to review. Management planned a major meeting. Promotions were rumored. Careers hung in the air. Daniel knew the timing was perfect. Too perfect. That made him uneasy. One evening, Daniel ran into an old colleague who had left the company years earlier. Over coffee, they spoke about ambition and regret. The colleague said something simple that stayed with Daniel. Winning can cost more than losing if you're not careful. That night, Daniel barely slept. The next day, Marcus made a mistake, small but visible. He shared a number that didn't align with the original data. Daniel caught it instantly. For a moment, he considered letting it slide, letting Marcus stumble. Instead, he corrected it quietly after the meeting. Marcus looked relieved, grateful. The gratitude hurt more than the betrayal. It reminded Daniel of who they used to be. The conflict inside Daniel grew louder. One part of him demanded justice. The other asked for peace. Both felt right. Both felt wrong. As the review meeting approached, Daniel felt the pressure build. His plan was ready, his words rehearsed. Still, doubt followed him like a shadow. He wondered who he would become after this. Not just what would happen to Marcus, but what would remain of himself. The night before the meeting, Daniel stood at his window, watching traffic move below. Everyone was going somewhere. Everyone believed in forward motion. He realized revenge was a kind of stopping point, a pause where you stare backward instead of ahead. Yet he could not ignore the betrayal. Letting it go without acknowledgement felt like erasing himself. By morning, Daniel knew one thing clearly. Whatever choice he made would shape him more than it would shape Marcus. Revenge was no longer about punishment, it was about identity. As he walked into the office, folder in hand, heart steady but heavy, Daniel understood the truth of his struggle. Revenge promised control in a moment when he had felt powerless, but control came with responsibility. The conflict was no longer about what Marcus deserved. It was about what Daniel was willing to carry for the rest of his life. The meeting room felt colder than usual. Daniel noticed it the moment he stepped inside. The long table gleamed under bright lights, and the quiet hum of the screen filled the air. Chairs scraped softly as people took their seats. This was it. The moment he had prepared for, imagined, questioned, and carried with him for weeks. Daniel sat still, folder resting on his lap. Inside it were the documents, clean and clear, ready to speak if he chose silence no longer. His heart beat fast, but his face stayed calm. Years of patience had taught him how to hide storms. Marcus entered last. He looked tired, not weak, but worn. His suit was neat, his posture confident, yet something in his eyes had shifted. Pressure had replaced excitement. Success, Daniel realized, was already asking Marcus for payment. The meeting began. Senior leaders spoke about growth, vision, and future plans. Numbers appeared on the screen. Charts rose and fell. The project stood at the center of it all, praised as a turning point for the company. Marcus was invited to speak. Kay stood, cleared his throat, and began. His voice was steady at first. He explained the strategy, the challenges, the wins. As he spoke, Daniel listened carefully, waiting for the familiar sense of anger to rise. It didn't. What he felt instead surprised him. Distance. Marcus paused midway through his presentation. He glanced at Daniel, just for a second. Then he did something unexpected. He spoke Daniel's name. He said the foundation of the project came from shared work. He said ideas were shaped through long discussions. He said success was not built alone. The words were careful, not a full confession, not a clear correction, but they were real. The room reacted with polite nods. Some people looked at Daniel with mild curiosity, as if noticing him for the first time. Marcus continued, voice slightly uneven now. Daniel felt the shift. The balance was changing, not by force, but by choice. When Marcus finished, the room turned to Daniel. It was his turn. Daniel stood slowly. The folder felt heavier than ever. He could feel every document inside it, every late night, every quiet moment of pain. He could end this now. One sentence would open the door. One click would release the truth in full. He looked at Marcus. Not the man who betrayed him, but the man standing under the weight of his own decisions. He saw fear there. Not fear of Daniel, but fear of losing everything he had fought for. Daniel took a breath. He began to speak. He talked about lessons, about how trust shaped good work, about how ideas grew stronger when shared honestly. His words were simple, direct. He did not accuse. He did not reveal. He spoke about the importance of clarity moving forward. As he spoke, something inside him loosened. Not because he had one, but because he had chosen. The power he felt was quiet, steady, and real. The meeting ended without drama. Applause followed. Polite and brief. People stood. Conversations resumed. Careers moved on. Marcus approached Daniel afterward. His face held relief and something deeper. Regret. "Thank you, Marcus," said softly. Daniel nodded. Nothing more was needed. That evening, Daniel walked home alone. The city felt louder, brighter. The folder was gone. He had left it behind, locked in a drawer at the office. It no longer belonged to his future. He replayed the moment in his mind, the choice, the restraint. He felt no rush of joy, no sharp victory. What he felt was space, room to breathe again. In the days that followed, change came slowly. Management began involving Daniel more. His voice mattered. Again. Not because of exposure, but because consistency had revealed itself over time. Marcus kept his distance, respectful and quiet. The friendship they once had did not return, but something honest replaced it. Daniel noticed how lighter his thoughts became. Revenge no longer followed him into sleep. His focus returned to growth, not correction. He understood now that revenge would have ended the story, not healed it. One morning, Daniel caught his reflection in a glass wall. He looked the same, yet different, stronger in ways that did not need proof. He learned that revenge promises release, but often delivers another burden. Walking away did not erase the betrayal. It transformed it. It turned pain into boundary, anger into clarity. Daniel moved forward, carrying the lesson, but not the weight. The betrayal had marked him, yes, but it had not defined him. And that, he realized, was the truest victory he could claim.